All right. All set. Cool. Stream number 18. And of course, I have to acknowledge before we get into this that it's a whole new world. We're on the other side of Config 2023. A bunch of features got announced, gosh, just a little over a week ago. And already it feels like, I don't know, long time, but also like a short time. I'm not going to be getting into too much of that here in this kind of forum, but you can definitely expect I'll be writing about it on my blog. Probably going to be tweeting about it quite a bit. So, yeah, if you're down for written content and you want to know how I'm thinking about variables and prototyping and maybe even some dev mode stuff, I will be getting into that elsewhere. But yeah, and only other thing I have to mention before getting into the actual stream content is a big moment of config for me, apart from the feature announcements, was I actually got to meet a good number of YNAB designers. Not the whole team was in attendance, it sounds like, but yeah, Emily, Heidi, Catherine, Alan, Cindy, and Dylan. I got to break bread with those guys, and it was so fun. Definitely a highlight of the trip, and I learned that they have seen some of my streams. They are aware, which is cool and a little spooky, right? Because YouTube and Google actually do a surprisingly good job of anonymizing, who my viewers are. So it's just been numbers for me up until now. I got to meet some people who I know are watching, and that doesn't happen often. It was really special to get to break bread with them. So yeah. Anyway, let's get into it. The stream, number 18. Two options. We could refactor the sidebar, or we can add a ready to assign modal to the header. And that's what we're doing. That's the vote. So we can come over here. Let's see, are my windows set up properly? There we go. We can come over here and find our header, which also got an update, and we've got somebody in the file. Jared, okay, what's up? I did not recognize you. You've added a profile picture, which is great. So now, yeah, howdy. Yes, okay, so just to recap, this guy lives inside of a modal, and that modal shows up when you click on this kind of big green button up here. Let's just demo real quick. And I'll just acknowledge it right now. Definitely an option in future streams. We'll be building this new feature that just came out. I believe if it wasn't early this week, it might have been late last week. I think it was early this week. Different views in the budget, which as a customer, I am so pumped for this. I think I can't quite wrap my head around how useful this will actually be. Like, I'm excited about it, but I think I should be more excited because I think it's even cooler than I know today, not having played with it yet. Anyway, that is for a future stream. But what I wanted to demo is when you click on this thing, you get this breakdown modal. And what's interesting about this component is you can see that when this happens, the entire background gets slightly darker, just a touch. And so it's not just a matter of saying, doing a click event and saying like, yeah, open this modal when this happens, but we have to account for the fact that the background changes on the whole screen. So that's going to be what I think that is the interesting part to figure out here. But yeah, we were doing this just before with the date picker, so let's grab a modal. This should be very familiar. We'll grab our modal, and this thing got some adjustments the last time too. We're going to want to swap this placeholder for ready to assign breakdown. There it is. And that mostly came in beautifully, except for some of these items. I wonder if, oh my gosh, y'all. Yeah, new features. I mentioned some of the big stuff like variables, dev mode, and prototyping. I didn't even auto layout wrapping. It didn't get as much airtime during the conference as you might expect. They really focused on dev mode and variables and prototyping, but that's a big one too. We can wrap stuff now with auto layout. We can set minimum and maximum widths as well. And I know that this thing is using one of those tricky 0 frames. I'm actually in the process of rewriting that blog post. I think it can actually be safely retired. That's my hunch right now. I'm still drafting, so No promises, but that's how it's looking. Anyway, I bring all that up because I'm noticing that this little bit of text set to hug. And perhaps it should not be. Let's see how it behaves for real. I will try and, well, first let's just see what happens when we actually are working with like a responsive screen here. So if we have that open and we squish this down, okay. Let's not do that. Let's instead, now, and this is a bit tricky what I'm doing here, or tricksy, I should say, because I know that, you know, YNAB has a dedicated mobile app. So the fact that we're kind of trying to force the desktop experience to be responsive right now is, I think, a little bit unfair. Let's see. Maybe I should do this without inspecting. What happens if I just crush the browser down? Okay, so that modal stays in the same spot. Yeah, it's not really meant for that. So the next thing I want to try inspecting this is actually grabbing like kind of the parent container, which looks like is here, and then force a width on it and just kind of crunch it down that way. So right now it's 540 pixels. So let's see what happens when we do something like 400 pixels, or we'll cut that in half, 200 pixels. Okay, this is really useful. I'm going to take a screenshot of that. Now, you can see the little beak got left behind up here, but that's all right. We can definitely account for that, but you can see that these are wrapping, and so I've got some adjustments that I need to make. Let me open Finder so I can get my screenshot plopped in. Okay, so that's just our example. Yeah, and if I do the same thing here. So yeah, I think it's just a matter of setting those guys to fill instead, and we can handle all that here. So let's just look and see. Let's get our layers back open. We'll just make sure everybody is ready to be responsive. And there's no reason why these, why this will be an issue. Except perhaps this one. But I think we're going to be all right, because with the new wrapping capabilities, yeah, we might be all right. So, I can't set assigned in to fill, right? Because what that's going to do is push our little placeholder string. Oh my gosh, y'all. And we can use variables for that. We can save months as variable strings in, our library. So set that aside. That's another thing we can do. But if I set this to fill, it's going to push this over, right? These two text layers are going to equally distribute inside of their frame 8 container, which is a bad name. I'm just going to do a placeholder container for now. We'll do the same down here, container, anywhere I'm seeing some crummy names. So that makes me think, and this is locked, that makes sense as well, because this string will never need to be adjusted, should never need to be adjusted. But with auto layout wrapping, yeah, this is, to be honest, my first time actually really playing with this feature. So we're going to be learning a little bit here, learning on the fly. We've got 3 pixels space between. We're kind of mimicking an actual space keystroke with that kind of an odd value. And I mean that as a pun. Odd in the number sense, odd in the strange sense. Let's see what that does. I'm just going to turn on wrapping and see if that kind of solves things. And let's put a real month in here, and we'll do a long one like November. So now when I crush that down, this guy's misbehaving still. Oh, I must have only... Okay, we've got the same problem up here. Oh man, yeah. So what do we do about that? So maybe this is another one where we need auto layout wrapping. Not quite, y'all. What do we do? So what else is available in wrapping that we can... Maybe this entire container needs to wrap. Let's try that. We're just going to do one adjustment at a time. and kind of see how those play out. And I've got some help from Jared. Would it make sense to make the whole string of variables? You have a single text box assigned in April, assigned in March. Same brain. That was going to be, I kind of wanted to put that off as like, you know, a potential solution, but I totally think that would be a fix. And, you know, not a ridiculous amount of information to store as strings. I guess like my first reaction is like, oh, I hate to repeat that kind of, you know, that beginning part, assigned in, over and over and over, right? Although that could also be a variable. Hold on, let's get into that. Let's explore it, because knowing that we can nest variables together, I mean, we don't have expressions in here, but what I'm wondering is like, can we use, I don't think there's like a concatenate sort of formula where I could have those basic values stored, right? Like here's all my months and here's assigned in, just one single string, and then can I like append the months on the end of that? Let's try it. So, and I just noticed on the stream, I'm kind of like covering that up, so I'll scoot this over. So let's create a string. Now, know that I'm on the free plan, so we don't have modes. We don't have modes available, but we'll make do. So assigned in, and then that's just going to be the same, assigned in, right? And we'll leave that one be, but then all of our months, let's just do January and February, just so we don't have a billion examples to test it out. And I would group these and call them months. So now when we go to all variables, we've kind of just got assigned in hanging out. It's not in any group, but then we do have our months here. And I guess this would be, we'll call this string collection for now. That is not a good name, but just for testing purposes, it'll do. And then let's call this like our string concat collection. But this is where I want to try and like, I don't think it's going to work. What I want to happen here is like, okay, and this would be the assigned in plus month, right? What I would love, I'm typing in equals because I thought that that would allow me to reference, hello, can I not? Okay, I guess you can't nest, you can't alias your string values. Man, I was not expecting that. I was under the impression that all variables could be aliased and referenced in other variables. Bummer. I hope that is coming soon, but really good test. And thank you, Jared, for the suggestion. I'm right in line with what you're thinking about. Man. So, and you know, actually, hold on, I deviated from your suggestion. Your suggestion was much simpler, and I think absolutely workable. So if I delete that other collection, what we need to do here is just get rid of these guys. You know, I'm trying to be like, oh, let's break it down into the tiniest pieces. We'll put every word in the dictionary as a variable, and then we can string together. And at that point, it's like just hard, like write in the raw values. So maybe I'm being a bit much with it, but yeah, assigned in January, like we could do it this way. Signed in February. Now, and you might be thinking, you know, other viewers out there, you might be wondering like, well, what's the point? Like, you know, you're kind of like saving these values, but why not just have them written in here? Like, you know, combine these two text layers as a single layer, and then let designers type in assigned in February, assigned in January. The reason why this is better is because, in my opinion, it's just less work, right? Less typing. Designers won't have to hold as much like UX copywriting information in their head. You know, an example from my day job is we've got, I mean, and probably like every app I would expect, you've got buttons all over the place, and there's very common button labels. And despite them being so common, though, folks might mess up the phrasing. For example, we have some buttons that say like visit profile, right? But I think it's not far-fetched to imagine somebody mistakenly, like a designer creating a mock-up from scratch, pre-variables, right? And they say view profile, or instead of visit profile, right? Really easy to make those kind of little word swapping mistakes, and also really easy to miss in, kind of design QA. This is why QA is like a whole job, or like a whole, really important part of the process. Nothing's misspelled. There's nothing that Figma's going to say is wrong about it. So when we can save these strings as variables, it just saves folks some work. We can just like say, this is the phrasing, this is the language, the verbiage. Folks don't have to worry about it. You can design with more confidence. You've got the right string value inserted. You don't have to remember that stuff. Okay, so we've got these guys, and I believe we could just delete that. We'll unlock this layer. I'm going to update the name, and if we wanted to apply some of those, these are the only variables in this library. So we could just say signed in January, signed in February. And now when we're working with an instance of this guy, let's actually say we're working with it here too. Oh, okay. This is where modes would be really cool. So I'm just thinking like this might actually be the component, like how folks interact with this thing. They would probably click on the modal, which is consuming the ready to assign breakdown. And then, within that, we've got this ready to assign in January, but that layer is way, way, way in there. And so what I wanted to see is like, how easy is it to swap out January for February? And it looks like that's already being surfaced. We are surfacing the variables for that, right? Because we're also surfacing the nested properties for placeholder. We swapped placeholder for something else. And so we get property 1 here, default. Oh, you know what's happening? It's because this is like in, it's this. I thought it was the variable coming out, and we don't even need that container because we don't have variance. So if we get rid of that, we lose property 1 here. Oh man, I guess you would have to click through. Like, that's also proving to be kind of difficult. It's locked. I don't want that. Let's unlock it. Thought I did that. Okay, and then if I wanted February, okay, so you would have to, I'm holding down command to get to that text layer, and if I wanted February, that's how I get to it. So something else I'll be interested in from Figma is, are they going to allow us to, just like with nested properties, can we expose nested variables in the design panel? So that way, again, like we can set the expectation for designers. Everything that you are allowed to change is available when you have this top layer selected, right? You don't have to go searching for things. We don't have to put emojis in the layer names to signal that you might want to adjust to this. It takes a lot of pressure off of designers, and it makes what you want designers to be configuring about a component, makes it very obvious to just have a nice list here. Obviously, I can imagine it's a really hard problem to solve for Figma, because even with just variants alone, and being able to surface nested variants, the design panel is kind of under a lot of pressure for space. Like, this becomes prime real estate. I've seen, and I've made components where the property list is just like a mile long sometimes, and that's not very usable. And so to bring in variables into that, that's just going to get bananas. So I don't know how they'll solve it, but I'm kind of interested in seeing, yeah, that's sort of functionality. Cool. Okay, so we've solved that part. We've got our assigned ins. I will build out the rest at a later time. The next thing I want to sort out is this auto layout wrapping and make sure that that gets covered. So what was the width on that? We did something like 200. So let's make sure these are all working. So, okay, here we go. This is not wrapping. I think all of these probably should be set to wrap. Wrap there, wrap there. We want this parent to wrap as well. Oh, hold on. Oh, no, no, no. We wanted that to be vertical. We're safe. Okay, that's vertical. It's just these things that are running horizontally. Make sure everybody's set to fill, and let's see what that's doing. Ready to assign. So we want this to be the same deal, right? Where we would get rid of this. Ready to assign leftover from, and then it would be the prior month's name. So we would handle that with variables the same way we did with that other section. So if we just paste that in, January. And just like before, I'll just do 2 of these for now. Oh, copy, paste. Cool. And then we can set that up. Excellent. Okay, and now, and you know, these would probably get grouped, but I'll deal with that later. Where are you breaking? Okay, maybe we didn't set this to fill. That's it. Okay. Assigned in February still, or January here. Gosh, it's like I feel like I'm doing these same things over and over. Okay. Woo! Oh, that gets a little crazy. So it might need some fine tuning. Something else that I'm noticing too is that these containers, yeah, these probably want to be aligned up here. Let's look at our screenshot. Oh no, no, that's it. Total ready to assign. Oh, total ready to assign is maybe not. Yeah, that's spilling. So that guy also needs to be fill. Yep. Okay. Oh, man, and I still got to get those icons sorted out. And eventually, when you crunch that down that much, like let's go again. Hold on, what width do I have here? 187. Let's do something even tighter, like 170 pixels. Let's just go down by tens. Okay, so at a certain point, you know, it gets bananagrams in here. Yeah. So it's not going to be quite the same match. Like these actually at a certain point don't wrap. But if I take that off, of all these guys, I guess that's a little more accurate as to what happens in real life. And, you know, I don't think we're, again, like YNAB has a dedicated mobile app with a different interface, you know, designed for mobile. So I'm not as concerned about, you know, widths this small, especially for components. But this is a great demo of, I mean, that was like pretty painless to update. I was really just turning on wrapping for a handful of containers, and we've got a much more responsive interface here. And I'm just looking to see value-wise, vertical space between rows. Oh, between, yeah, that makes sense, because when things wrap, how much space do you want? So that I haven't really checked out. And I guess I haven't set any minimum widths on this thing, which I could because we're using auto layout. So that's something else to explore, but probably not enough time in this particular stream. And we haven't even solved the prototyping part. That's, oh my gosh. Oh, Jared, I'm so sorry. I might need to toggle the modal after you've adjusted the screen size to see how it behaves on the smaller screen. Okay, that was maybe when I was struggling a little bit earlier with like in the inspector or in the browser. How do I get this to actually crunch down? Yeah, that totally makes sense. Like wait to expose it when I'm in the breakpoint that I want. But we got there. Thank you. All right. Yeah, so we got to insert this in here, prototyping wise. I guess I'll just talk through that for a minute. I don't think I have time to actually attempt to execute anything. What would that look like? I guess I'm thinking about the new prototyping features available. First thing that comes to mind is we can have multiple click events happening. So I guess if I go to prototype this and somebody, this is where that click event would happen. What did I just say? I'm not going to attempt anything, and here I am. You can now create realistic prototypes with fewer frames, with actions that include expressions, conditional logic, and more. Oh, upgrade now. Am I not allowed? Okay, I've got access to all this stuff, so that's cool. Open, overlay, swap, and close were all available before. Set variable is new, conditional is new. Yeah, those are the only new ones. So the most basic would be on click. I suppose we'd want to open an overlay, and maybe, how this might shape up, y'all, is that we actually put this in some sort of container, and I'm just going to not even use our styles for just a quick second. So like, let's do a fill with a 20% opacity, and let's actually have it kind of like that, and I'll put some padding on the top. So maybe what happens when you're working with an instance of this, on click, open overlay, and I wonder if frame 10 here would need to be a component, probably frame 10. But here's the thing is like, if frame 10 becomes a component, what do you do about the size? Like, this header could be used in prototypes representing different breakpoints. How do you account for that? And like when you drop an instance of header in your, like in another file, and this is where the free plan is really limiting, right? Like I'm setting up these prototyping connections in what would be a library file, but I can't hit publish because I'm not a paying user. And yeah, I'm just wondering, like when I drop this instance in another file, I've got this connection set up, but like how does it actually look? So something to kind of figure out. Let me swap scenes there. Right on. Fun stream. Ran into a bunch of the features, like auto layout wrapping, that I actually forgot about. Can't believe, because that was highly anticipated and not talked about as much as I would have expected. I'm buzzing with ideas for things we could tackle in future streams. Thank you, Jared, for mentioning the variables for the text strings. Like, I think that could be a huge and just super fun to explore. And so much other stuff. So, as always, if you're on my email list, you get to decide. I'll offer a couple options. That email will go out. Oh, I don't know. I hit a key on my keyboard. And it changed scenes in OBS. That email will go out about this time next week on the 6th of July, and folks will have about a week to get their votes in, and we'll be streaming again on the 13th for session 19. Hope you have a good time between now and then. Stay safe, healthy, and yeah, thanks for watching.